Guys, what's good? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, I hope you're all well. I hope you're keeping safe. Let's get into this boxing topic. Let's get talking about this boxing topic, which has been quite hot last couple of days, or since Saturday, since Conor Benn beat Chris Van Heerden. Mr. Froch, Mr. Froch made some comments which people are riled up about. He said that Amir Khan is only good for getting knocked out. Firstly, let me say what he meant by that. He meant that Amir Khan is only good for getting knocked out right now. He wasn't talking about his whole career, although it's been published as that, because basically what he was saying, Amir Khan at this point is only good for being knocked out. He's only going to get knocked out and he needs to retire. I think after he said he's only good for getting knocked out. After he said it, Tony Bellew started to laugh and they were moving on. And when Tony Bellew got asked a question, the first thing he said to Carl Froch is, you can't speak about people like that. So he started laughing, but I know Tony Bellew's good friends with Amir Khan. So that probably didn't sit too well with him. Do you know what I mean? So he probably thought he had to defend Khan. But one thing I will say is this, like, I'm not a big Froch fan. I like his personality is very horrible for me. I find it very difficult to take the guy seriously, but he is right in the sense that what he's saying is not wrong. Amir Khan, if he was to fight Conor Benn, he would get knocked out. So he's not wrong, Froch. Froch is right in what he's saying. Amir Khan is way, way past his best. And if he was to fight Conor Benn, it wouldn't end well, because Khan is way, way... We've seen it against Brook. He's way, way past his best days are way, way behind him. I think it's not the fact what Froch was saying. What Froch was saying is correct. It's the way he said it. It's the way he said it. He said it like Amir Khan's name wasn't even mentioned. He brought up Kell Brook, Froch did. And then all of a sudden he went back and said, oh, Amir Khan, like, why are you mentioning Amir Khan's name? He was in the ring. It doesn't matter. You didn't have to mention his name. He intentionally brought up Amir Khan's name and then said that kid is only good for being knocked out. So the point I'm trying to make is, firstly, you didn't have to bring up Khan's name, right? Because you were being asked to talk about who Conor Benn should fight next, right? If you didn't think Khan was a credible opponent, you didn't have to say his name. But no one else brought up Amir Khan's name. It's not like the presenter asked Carl Froch about Amir Khan. Carl Froch himself brought up Amir Khan's name. And I see a lot of people online defending Carl Froch and saying, oh, well, Carl Froch is right. Yeah, I as a Khan fan, say he's right. Carl Froch, what he said, but why did he bring up Khan's name? The fact that Khan was in the ring is irrelevant because no one asked him about Amir Khan. It's not like Tony Bellew brought up Amir Khan or Laura Woods brought up Amir Khan. They didn't. He brought up Amir Khan himself. No one brought up Amir Khan. He brought up Amir Khan. So it's not the fact what Froch said, because like I said, I agree with Froch. Khan is past his best. The problem I have is the way, firstly, the fact that he even brought Khan up. Secondly, the way he came across. But that's because Froch obviously doesn't like Amir Khan. I think it's quite clear now. There's a timeline now of about a 10-year span where Carl Froch has made negative comments. I remember when Amir Khan got knocked out by Brady Prescott, he said Amir Khan will never become a world champion, or he'll never recover from this. He said that there's so many things that a professional needs that, an amateur doesn't. And obviously got proven wrong there, because Khan went on to become a unified champion. If I'm not mistaken, Khan was also ranked number one at 140 pounds. It was between him and Timothy Bradley, but Bradley didn't take the fight. So he obviously, Carl Froch was wrong there, because Khan did go on to become, a world champion. So Carl Froch, this has been an ongoing thing. And I remember Carl Froch was interviewed one time and he mentioned something on the line of, That, you know, he put Audley Harrison and Khan in the same kind of category, Olympic medalists that didn't achieve anything. And the reporter, the guy that was actually interviewing, he was kind of shocked. And he said, "You don't think Amir Khan achieved anything? He was a unified world champion." And this was a long time ago. Like, I'm talking, this must have been about 2013-14 time. And the guy that was asking Carl Froch, like, fair enough, he said Audley Harrison. Audley Harrison didn't go on to win a world title. I'm not going to say Audley Harrison didn't have a successful career, because he went on to become a European champion, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a successful career. Yeah, he wasn't successful at world level, and he didn't go on to become what people thought he would become after winning an Olympic gold. But nevertheless, you know, I still think that Audley Harrison, compared to most boxers, had a decent career, you know. But again, he didn't achieve what he was expected to achieve. Amir Khan, on the other hand, Amir Khan's probably one of the most successful British fighters of all time, you know, in terms of what he achieved, the resume that he's got, you know. And Carl Froch was a good fighter as well. He was a good fighter as well. You know, there was a lot of people arguing, well, why Froch has had a better career? Froch didn't have a better career than Khan. They were similar. If you combine Khan's amateur and pro career, Khan's career was far more glittered than Froch, right? They both beat the similar level of opponents. They both weren't pound for pound the best in their day. Froch wasn't pound for pound the best either. You know, Froch beat a lot of guys that were kind of past their prime. You know, Taylor was past his prime. Kessler was past his prime. You know, Kessler beat him in his prime. You know, he lost to Andre Ward. And a lot of the other guys that Froch beat they were good fighters, solid fighters, you know, and some of them were close. Pascal fight, a lot of people thought he lost. Darrell fight, many people thought he lost. So Carl Froch had a good career, don't get me wrong. He was a good fighter, just like Amir Khan was a good fighter. But you know, I just feel like Carl Froch was a unified champion. Amir Khan was a unified champion, right? They both achieved kind of similar things. When you look at titles won and recognition, they both did the same thing in the sport. You know, Froch didn't do anything in the sport, which Khan didn't. There's another thing that I was going back and forth with someone. And by the way, I think Froch is a good fighter. I think he had a decent career. I think he was a good fighter, just like Khan was. I think they were both, like I said, similar level. But one guy said, well, Froch hasn't been knocked out. Okay, Khan has been knocked out. I'll give you that. But so has Roy Jones. So has Manny Pacquiao. Does that mean Carl Froch is a better fighter than those guys as well? You see, the point I'm trying to make here is not about Khan or Carl Froch. The fact is, I'm trying to make that both are similar level of fighters. That, you know, Froch wasn't... If you put Froch in against the top guns, he'd lose, right? You put Khan in there against maybe the top guns. For me, I'd give him a better shot because he's a more skillful, more naturally gifted fighter than Froch. But I wouldn't give Froch a chance against anyone that's skilled like Andre Ward. I'd give Khan a better chance against someone like that because he was a better boxer. Froch had other intangibles. He had a great chin. He had great stamina. He had great relentless, and he had a big heart. Froch did. He had a great big heart, very big heart, and he was a good fighter. Froch was a good fighter, and to be honest, both Khan and Froch have two of the best resumes in British boxing. I think both of them, I think they're the only two fighters that you can say that consistently fought the best after the best after the best after the best. And both of them, I think Khan fought better fighters. Look, Froch hasn't got guys like Crawford and Canelo on his resume. Even Danny Garcia, you could say, Maidana, for example. I don't think Carl Froch has got those kind of names on his record, apart from Ward. I think everybody else was okay, good, solid fighters like Froch himself. But I don't think, like Arthur Abraham, Darrell, Pascal, these are not, you know, pound for pound or top tier, or, you know, they're good fighters. Do you know what I mean? Jermaine Taylor was a very good fighter, but Jermaine Taylor was past his best when Carl Froch fought him. You know, Jermaine Taylor was an undisputed champion. You know, that was before Froch, though. You know, when he fought Froch, you know, Jermaine Taylor was past his best. Having said that, it was still a good win for Froch. Even though he was past his best, still a good win because Froch was getting beat in that fight. And Froch came from behind in the 12th round to stop him. So you have to give him credit. So in terms of these two, I don't know why Froch comes across very bitter towards Amir Khan. Like I said, I don't think he was wrong in what he said. I think he was right. I think Amir Khan is past his best. The problem is, I think it's the way he said it. It was as if he was looking for attention and looking for... he knew that Khan's a big name. Me saying this, it'll go viral on social media. It'll become a talking point. So Froch didn't need to do that. And then the problem I have with Froch is when he goes and gives interviews, he says, I have no agenda against Khan. I'm not a hater. The fact that you're having to bring it up, right, is a sign that, you know, you're having to bring something up to justify you not being a hater of Amir Khan. But why are you making sly comments? People are only going to think you're a hater if you're making sly comments and you're making disrespectful comments, right? If he had just said that Amir Khan's past his best, I'm not interested in seeing that fight, right? Then I don't think anyone would have said anything. Nobody would have made such a big deal out of it. But Froch wanted it to be a big deal. That's the thing. And that's what I'm trying to... That's why it comes... That's where his comment is, for me, is a bit ridiculous, because he's intentionally trying to troll and dig Khan out, you know, which there's no need for it. He's already down, you know, his career's finished, really. You know, there's no need for Carl Froch to kind of like... There's a saying that you don't kick somebody when they're down, you know, that's exactly what Carl Froch did after the Brook fight, and that's what he's doing again. You know, he just doesn't... I just don't think he likes Amir Khan, full stop. I think whenever he'll see him, he just doesn't like him. He says he has to give him praise because Khan was a top fighter, great fighter in his prime. He has to give him praise because otherwise he'll look like an idiot if he says he's just rubbish and this, that. You know, he'd make himself look stupid. That's for people that come in comment sections that are trolls that say Khan's crap, this, that. You know, it's okay for trolls and to go in comment sections or Facebook pages and say he's crap. But for a pundit and a guy that was a world champion like Froch to say that, it'd come across stupid, you know. So I think he reluctantly gives Khan credit. He doesn't want to, in my opinion. He has to, because he knows he'll look like a fool if he doesn't give Khan credit, because he knows he's achieved a lot as an amateur and as a pro. So he reluctantly has to give Khan credit. I don't think he wants to. You know, he even said in the IFL TV interview that, you know, I'm not a Khan fan or anything, but, you know, he was a good, fantastic fighter, but I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan or anything. Like, he kind of, like, he gives backhanded compliments to Khan. Do you know what I mean? Like, reluctantly, for me, that's just the way it comes across. It's not like he's giving him a compliment and he genuinely means it. I think he has to say it, because if anyone was to say, or a respected pundit was to say Khan's crap or he's rubbish, right, it just would look stupid. You look stupid because, like I said, Khan was a unified world champion. So, you know, and Carl Froch, it's not like Carl Froch was a 3-4 weight world champion. He was a unified champion as well. And like I said, he got beat by the best as well, just like Khan did. You know, Khan, like I said, he just fought better fighters. You know, the guys that Khan fought, like Maidana, Zab Judah, Kotelnik, Garcia, Peterson, Canelo, Crawford, they were just better fighters than, you know, Canelo and Crawford. If I'm not mistaken, Canelo's the #1 fighter in the sport today, and Crawford's the #2 fighter in the sport. So Carl Froch fought one guy that was on that kind of level, that was Andre Ward, and he was soundly beaten by that guy. And after that, he never fought anybody else that, in my opinion, was top 10 pound for pound. Mikkel Kessler was not top 10 pound for pound. Jermaine Taylor was not top 10, especially when Carl Froch fought him. And everyone else, Pascal, Darrell, these are okay good fighters, solid fighters. These weren't top tier brass fighters. You know, they had decent, solid careers, but they weren't top brass, you know. So yeah, I think both of them kind of had similar careers. They both were unified champions in terms of achievements and recognition. Both did exactly the same thing. I don't know whether it comes down to whether Froch just feels that he didn't get the recognition that someone like Khan did, or Khan was a lot more famous. Maybe it's something to do with that. Maybe that's why he was bitter. I don't know, because Carl Froch, I know he's good friends with David Haye, and David Haye had a bigger name than Carl Froch as well. But Carl Froch has made a comment before where he's saying that he said that Joe Calzaghe, Amir Khan, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, Prince Nassim Hamed, he made comments that my record was better than all of these guys, and that's what Carl Froch said. So I think it is down to a bit of jealousy and bitterness. The fact that I think Carl Froch feels that he didn't get the credit in his career that some of those, or recognition, or the popularity or the fame that some of those names that Ricky Hatton as well, he mentioned. So I think he probably feels that he didn't get the recognition, and Khan was a competitor to him, because when Carl Froch was at the top, Khan was also around at the top, and Khan was more well recognized and a much bigger name than Froch. So maybe it stems from that, possibly. And that's probably why there's a bitterness there. I don't know. But yeah, I've always kind of been confused to why Carl Froch doesn't like, and he's never liked him, to be honest. Like, even from the get-go, it's not like he says, well, Khan's been knocked out a few times, but even before Khan was ever knocked out, he didn't like Khan. So it's not like, so when Khan was knocked out by Prescott, that's one time. Ever since then, he's been making negative comments. Like I said to you, when Prescott beat Amir Khan, he said Khan will never be a world champion. So he obviously doesn't like Khan. He obviously has got some kind of something against him. You know, he just doesn't like him. You know, I know the comments that he made on Saturday night were correct. They weren't wrong. He didn't say anything that wasn't wrong, because Conor Benn would knock out Amir Khan at this point in Amir Khan's career. And Amir Khan does need to retire. It's the way he comes across. It's the way he said it. There was no need for it. It was as if he was looking for some kind of attention. And that's the issue that I have. It's not what he said. It's how he said it. And the fact that he didn't need to say it. You know, he didn't even need to bring up Khan's name. He brought up Khan's name. He wasn't asked, and he brought up Khan's name himself. Why? What was the why would you bring up his name? You know, if you don't think he's relevant and you don't think he's a guy that we need to talk about, then you don't need to bring him up. You brought him up, you know, and you brought him up because you wanted to troll him. That's why, you know, because like I said, I don't think Carl Froch likes Amir Khan at all. I think the fact that Amir Khan even got into the ring probably didn't sit well with Carl Froch. Just the fact that he probably thinks that this guy's getting attention again. So this is what I'm trying to say. I think that's why he brought him up, just so he could troll him, you know. You know, because Tony Bellew didn't say anything. They didn't even, like I said, no one was talking about Amir Khan, you know. And Carl Froch initially said, I like the Kell Brook fight. And then after that, he said, I know they're talking about Amir Khan, but that kid's just been good for being knocked out. This is what I'm trying to say. He didn't need to bring up Khan. He brought up Khan because he wanted to troll him. And that's what it comes down to. So, yeah, I thought I'd give my thoughts on that. By the way, I think Froch was a good fighter. He had a good career. You know, he did well in his career. But, you know, I do think sometimes, I think Froch has a bit of an overinflated opinion of his career and himself. He was a good fighter, a solid fighter, had a very good career. But I don't think he was as good as he thought he was, you know. That's just my opinion. And, yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about what Froch had to say. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.